Alrighty, we are live. This is, let me just get my tripod sussed. Whew. This is the third and final live video on the launch stage of sex, drugs, and mostly yoga. So today, this time, on this third live, I'm hoping to talk to Nik Robson, who's one of my dearest friends, who is an amazing yoga teacher. And I'm also hoping to talk to Connie, another dear friend, who is another extraordinary yoga teacher. I mean, of course, I'm surrounded in amazing yoga teachers. And so I'm gonna chat while we wait for them to show up. And then hopefully they will come on with ease. So, let me think, I'll just drop in for a moment. What needs to be said this time around? And if you're watching, hey April and Linda, feel free to drop questions in on all things related to yoga and mental health. So this memoir is the story of my experience of Kundalini awakening / psychosis, ending up in a psych ward in 2004, twice within a month, and then coming back to New Zealand and getting right into yoga as part of my recovery. Notifications keep popping up and it's like, I'm trying to get rid of them because I can't see what's going on. And it's been an extraordinary journey. So when I went right into the awakening / psychosis, I had already been practicing yoga and meditation for about 4 or 5 years. And so I had begun to build up the witness, the ability to witness myself in action. And I had begun that process of disidentifying with my mind and disidentifying with my feelings and being able to simply observe them as they move through me. I wasn't so good on the feelings. Like, I was so emotionally illiterate still. I was still in complete avoidance of emotional stuff, and that's one reason why I went into psychosis. But I did have an ability to witness, and I did know enough already to not believe everything that my mind was saying. And so even when I was in the midst of psychosis, there was still a part of me that was witnessing the delusions of the mind and knowing that something wasn't quite right, and yet not being able to do anything about it. And that was an extraordinary place to be in. And I tell some of those stories in the book. In particular, let me tell one little story. So the second time I went into psychosis, it was triggered by my fiance breaking up with me. And a couple of well-meaning friends, they could see the state that I was in, and they were trying to ground me. So they took me out into the bush to go camping. And I didn't sleep that night. I was not in a good state. We were sleeping around a campfire in sleeping bags. And about 5:30 in the morning, I got up and I'm like, I'm gonna go for a run, and I hadn't slept at that stage for like 5 or 6 days. I was completely avoiding all the grief that was coming through my system. And yeah, I was totally ungrounded and in a delusional state. So I start running down this logging road, and I could feel one of my friends following me, and he was away behind me though. And in my mind, so these friends that I'd gone camping with who were trying to ground me, they used to make a lot of community television for Channel 6, which was the community television station in Whistler. And so he's behind me, and in my mind, I'm like, oh, he's filming me for the TV show, because I've been looking at making TV shows at the same time too. So this is what's going on in my mind. So I believe that this guy who's following me, who's a friend of mine, is filming me for the TV show. And so I'm running, and I see a logging truck go past, right? And the logging truck must have wondered, like, why is this? And I was in bare feet. This is September, so it's autumn in Canada. And no one really wears bare feet in Canada, but I was always in bare feet. It was normal for me. And he must have slowed down, thinking, why is this woman by herself on bare feet running down a logging road? And when I saw him slow down on the logging truck, I was like, oh yeah, okay, I'm going to show these guys something. So I jumped on the top of the logging truck and ran along the top and was pulling off the truck was still moving, by the way, pulling off the tags on the truck, on the logs, thinking I was playing Fear Factor. So this was all going on, and my friends never really caught up with me. I managed to get away from the truck driver because he slowed down and stopped and sort of tried to catch me, and I got away from him. And then I'm still walking down this road, and I remember hitchhiking with someone, and long story short, the cops, the RCMP picked me up, and they were like asking me a bunch of questions, and they took me to the medical clinic. So now I'm at the medical clinic, and by now part of me is sort of beginning to clue in that something's not quite right, but I can't bring myself out of the state. And they've put me in a room by myself because I had no social filters, and I still thought I was being filmed. And I'm like there in the clinic going, wow, you guys have done such a great job of replicating a medical clinic. Like, wow, awesome job. And they're looking at me going, this woman's crazy. And I wasn't according to my delusion and what I believed was happening. So there I am in this room. And the two cops, the RCMP, they're still there, and they're standing on either side of the doorway, like watching me, like one eye on the crazy woman, you know, and they're making small talk, like they're hanging out, and one dude's like, yeah, I just moved from Ontario, my wife's a bit bummed, she hasn't made any friends yet. And I'm aware of their conversation. I'm aware that they think I'm crazy. I'm aware that I am deluded or that I can't come down. I'm aware of all of this, and I'm trapped in this little room, and I'm like going, what do I do? How do I get myself out of this state? And I had a sense of like needing to do yoga, but that wasn't helping. And so then I went and ran my hands underneath. There was a sink in there, so I was running my hands underneath the water in the sink, hoping that would help, like running water, and it didn't help either. And they'd given me some sedatives when I arrived at the clinic, and the last thing I remember then, I was never able to bring myself right down. The last thing I remember is, I don't know if I was strapped or not, but I was on a stretcher, and they were loading me into the back of the ambulance, and they were basically getting ready to take me from Pemberton, which is where I was at the top of the valley, which is about 2 or 3 hour drive down the Sea to Sky highway all the way down to Lionsgate Hospital into the psych ward. And so the sedatives must have kicked in, because I don't remember a single thing of that ambulance ride. The next thing that I do remember is waking up in the psych ward, and there were 4 beds to a room, and my bed was the closest to the door. And I woke up, and it hit me like that my fiance, it hit me that my fiance had broken up with me, and B, it hit me that I was back in the psych ward, and that this time around I couldn't blame the drugs, because the first time had come off the back of a 4-day music festival that I'd been at with my fiance, and I didn't take a whole lot of drugs in comparison to what was going on, but I'd had like ecstasy the first night and mushrooms the second night and acid on the Sunday and smoked a bunch of weed, and that had precipitated the first awakening that led into psychosis. So here I am the second time in the psych ward, and I couldn't blame the drugs, you know, and that was harder, and my fiance had broken up with me. And with that happening, that meant I was homeless. I had nowhere to live, and I didn't have a job, so I had no money. And I was already in debt because I was attempting to make it as a freelance writer, and I'd been going further and further into debt over the course of that summer, just really believing that something was going to come through, but nothing had come through yet. So it was like, and I was diagnosed bipolar, you know. So waking up in the psych ward that second time was the most... There was nowhere to go, you know, like I couldn't leave either. I was committed. I was wearing orange pajamas. I couldn't run. And I'd been running away from emotionally challenging situations for my entire life. Like that's what I had always done, unconsciously of course, but I'd always run away from the intensity of my emotional landscape. And for many, many years, I locked it away completely. Like, and I'd only started to get in touch with some of my emotions, literally, I was 29 then, and sort of the last 5 years as I'd been taking, it was the drugs that had started to wake me up, mushrooms in particular. So that's a little snippet of a story from this time period in my life. So this book it covers recovery and it includes some of these stories, but you know, like I have so many stories from the 8 years that I was traveling overseas, partying so hard, having the best time of my life, and then went into the awakening psychosis, and there was so many stories around that, and then coming back to New Zealand in 2004 to begin the recovery process, which took a long time. Like it really did. I'd take a long time to fully recover from that experience. And let me just feel into this for a moment. Where to go next? Yeah, okay. So I'm just aware, Nick was messaging me before, so Nik Robson is coming on to chat with me. I don't think he realizes that I'm on yet. He sent me a message and he's like, let's chat beforehand and figure out a game plan. And I'm like, Nick, I'm already on. I can't even respond to your message. So if any of you are watching, are friends with Nik Robson, can you just send him a quick message? I don't know if you are, Renee. Send him a quick message, let him know I'm already on and he can take his time because I'm quite happy to talk. And when he shows up, I'll bring him on. Okay, so one thing I really would like to go into a little bit right now, because a few people have asked me this, like, how do you recover from being diagnosed bipolar, or what is it that you did that meant you were able to do this? And I've been really feeling into that over the last few days, because over the last 3 or 4 days, I have been immensely triggered, and I don't get triggered very often anymore. So when I say triggered, what that means is that I'm having an out of context, intense emotional experience. So there's nothing in particular going on in my external life that would warrant the kind of emotional response that I'm having. But over the last 3 or 4 days, I have been feeling immense terror, like terror. At first I wasn't aware I was feeling terror. Like when it first showed up, it came through as a really ungrounded feeling, and I noticed that I was kind of trying to leave my body. I wanted to get the fuck away, get the fuck away, get the fuck away. And that's what it felt like. It was just this strong sense of get out of here, get out of here. And I recognized it. I was like, oh yeah, there's that place I used to go into a long time ago. And it makes sense, right? Because here I am, the book is coming out, and it's really raw. It's really vulnerable. Like I've always shared over the last 10 years or so that I've been writing about these experiences. I've always shared from my heart, from what I've known. But this goes even more so, you know, it goes deep, and it's hard. You know, I kind of feel like there's no hiding anymore. You know, there's no hiding. And it feels really scary. Because a lot of what I'm saying in this book around mental health goes contrary to conventional wisdom, shall we say. And yet, it has been what's worked for me. And I know that if this is what works for me, I know that potentially it means it might work for other people. So it feels really important for me to share the central message of this book. And that central message, in a nutshell, is that so much of what we experience with mental health is, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with us per se. What it means is that we need to get out of our heads and go down into our body and feel the trauma and the triggered, stored emotions that are starting to come up that need to be fully felt to be healed and released. And a lot of us have, over the course of our lifetime, stuffed down so many feelings. And when we don't fully feel and acknowledge a feeling in the moment, it's energy, right? It has to go somewhere. You know, if someone does something to you that you get really fucking angry at, and you're being conditioned to not get angry or not even feel anger, you may have no clue that you're feeling anger because your internal system is already so hardwired to suppress it, right? So it suppresses it. And when that happens time and time and time and time again, we can only suppress so many things. You know, and at age 29, I had a good 20 years of suppression, and the dam burst. I could not suppress all the stuff I had been suppressing anymore. And so what I've been going through in the last 3 or 4 days feels to me like almost the remnants of, because I know when I was in psychosis both times that I was experiencing terror, but I wasn't feeling it. I was unconscious of it. And so over the last 3 or 4 days, I've been feeling this really strong terror, and it has taken all of my tools and techniques to be able to stay in my body, to be able to stay in the witness, and to stay present. And it's still there right now, and there's terror, and there's so much emotion, like I just want to burst into tears, and there's a sense of wanting to hide. But I'd made this commitment that I was going to show up and do these 3 Facebook Lives, and to be honest, if I hadn't have made that commitment and I hadn't have asked some of my friends to come along and be on them, I wouldn't have done it. Like, I would have just hidden. And even this one, like I was down at the park with my son this afternoon, And part of me was like, I can't do it. I'm just going to cancel. No one's going to care. No one's going to notice. I'm just going to cancel. And I watched those thoughts come through my brain. Hey, there's Nick. Alrighty. Nick, I'm just going to finish this story and I'm going to call you in, dude. So just let me finish this thought. So I'm down at the park and I'm having this thought. I'm going to cancel. It doesn't matter. Nobody cares. And something in me was like, it's just a thought. You have to show up. This is all about showing up as you are. So here I am. I'm showing up as I am, which is fucking emotional. Yeah, and this is a part of the process, right? Of us daring to be. I'm going to pull you in, Nick.
Hide from each other because of what we're going through, the more we exacerbate our own pain and suffering. So it takes so much strength to be who you are, you know, in front of your friends, in front of your family, in front of other people. Yeah, there's Nick.
Yo.
Yo. Oh, welcome. I'm so glad to see
Thank
you.
You too.
Should we take a few breaths together?
What's that?
Should we take a few breaths together? I feel like I need to take a layer off too. I'm getting hot. So for those of you that don't know Nick, this is Nik Robson, who is an amazing yogi. He specializes in yin yoga and he's just started doing teacher trainings, and he is in Bali right now, which is kind of his permanent base, but he will be back in New Zealand later on this year and running some teacher trainings in New Zealand. And Nick and I have been friends now for about 4 years, and we've had some really deep conversations, probably some of the deepest I've had on the nature of reality,
The deepest.
what it means, the deepest, right? What it means to be a yogi, what it means to be a teacher, what it means to be a human being waking up. So, so nice to see you, Nick.
Yeah, you too.
Yeah. So you've just come from India, right?
Mm-hmm.
How was that? Like, how's your take now on the whole awakening experience? Because you and I have talked and you've been pretty hard out, like, yeah, let's wake up. Where are you sitting with this waking up thing now? What's your take on it?
Well, it was so good to go to India because it's in the culture. Like, waking up is in the culture. And I spent a lot of time with guys who had just dedicated everything to waking up. Like, literally, like sadhus, babas, swamis, who had, in order to simplify the waking up process, had simplified everything down to just a couple of sarongs and somewhere to sleep and a little bowl that they could go and hold out so that someone could put food in it, and the rest of their time is free at that stage, you know, and they're living by the Ganges River. And at that point, you know, like these guys are worshipping Shiva, right? And so it's all about Om Namah Shivaya, Jai Bholenath, Jai Bholenath. And what I took that to mean is every action is consecrated and offered to Shiva, which to me is consciousness, is to non-duality. Like, allow me to transcend this dual world that I'm in, because I realize that the ultimate reality is oneness. And that shifts you. Like, hanging out with these people, like, we couldn't really communicate so well. Like, we weren't going deep in our conversations so much, but we were deep beyond words. And just getting to know these guys, and like, you can't help but realize that when you meet people who have such a different worldview to you, that you realize that you have such a indoctrinated, socialized worldview. And so, yeah, that was beautiful to spend time with these guys. And it was, this could be like a 10-hour live if I were to
Yeah.
start telling you stories from India.
I bet. I think, like, I know from
Yeah.
my recovery journey, like, I needed time as well. Like, I didn't work a lot. Like, I was working for myself, like, immediately after, because recovery and awakening was the priority, and so much time was needed to simply be with what was coming through. And I was like, there's no way I could have gone and, like, I had never worked a 40-hour job in an office in the last well, I never have, full stop, but definitely not in the last 14 years, because my emotional processes, like where I was, always had to take precedence. You know, it's like that's the most important thing, is waking up. So yeah, I get that sense of it.
And so I'm back in the world. I'm back in the world now, not really like the world that I would be living in if I was in New Zealand. Like I'm here in Bali, like, and I'm here in the Gili Islands. So you know, it's pretty simple and quiet. But yeah, I feel really lucky that I've been able to like work for myself, like basically create myself a job that enhances that process of awakening.
So have you ever had any like awakening experiences that have freaked you out, or where you felt you've begun to get ungrounded or start to lose connection with? Do you want to tell us about
I'm there
someone?
right now. Yeah, I'm there right now.
What's it feel like right now for you?
Like I'm more in the spirit world than I am in the physical world. Like the conversations that I'm having, they just kind of go, and then you're up there and everything's just beautiful. You see the interconnectedness of everything. You see through the illusion, but at the same time, the difficulty of that is that, especially if you want to come back to your family and your friends, and if you have a job or something, like that's the challenge, is to integrate the spirit world and the physical world, and that's what Tantra is, right? So we're Tantrikas, so we have these tools, which is beautiful, but and I think like you don't have to do it as fast as we are trying to do it. Like we're like, let's just get this done. Like, all right, like I realize what the game is now. Let's just get onto it. And there's also the slow way, which you can just slowly integrate it into your everyday life, which is what most people are going to want to do, which I highly recommend. But it's so good to have people like us that are just like, all right, like we're skyrocketing, and we're exploring. Like we're not afraid of what we might find. And what often we might find is that like things that mattered to us a lot drop away really fast, which is scary. But they don't have to drop away so fast. They can drop away one little piece at a time.
I think you hit
and I
the
know
nail
this
on
is what
it.
your book's about.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like I've always had a part of me that wants to go to extremes. You know, like I fucking love the high. Like I love, when they were talking about the high of like, when I used to go to the gym, you know, I would get off on seeing how hard and fast I could go in cardio. You know, and then I started going out clubbing, and then it was like, how hard can I dance all night? You know, it was always chasing the high, chasing the intensity of life. And I can definitely see how when I started to meditate and I was mixing that with like marijuana and mushrooms and acid and seeing how far can I expand my mind, and that got me in trouble. Like I did go too far in terms of, you know, I ended up in the psych ward, and I definitely do not recommend that to anybody. You know, like if you can avoid the psych ward, this is a good thing.
But because of that, you can help people, right? Like sometimes you got to go too far to know how far too far is, and then you go all the way out, and then you can walk back and meet people where they're at and say like, hey guys, I've walked this path before, like let me guide you safely. Because I fell off over this ledge you were about to come up, like I fell off there, and then I had to crawl all the way back, and like you don't have to do that because I did that.
That is so freaking true. And I wonder sometimes, I'm like, I'm sure like if we sign up for this thing, I'm sure that when someone's like, all right, who wants to do the psych ward run? Me, I'm in. You know, because you're right, someone had to go and experience it and be able to articulate it, come back, tell the story, and like you say, be able to guide other people. who are having these experiences, because to me it feels like more and more people are having awakening experiences that are so often conflated with mental illness, right?
Yeah, totally. And the truth is, like, the sad truth is that to a lot of people, awakening is mental illness, because what's that Krishnamurti quote is, it is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And for the most part, everyone's really well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And when someone breaks away from that and starts living in a whole different paradigm, people are like, you're not okay, you know? And like, you go like, oh, but I feel freer than I've ever been. And they're like, yeah, but it kind of freaks us out. So can you please just tone it down and just kind of go through the motions like us? And like, you know, like, that's why and it's the things that people don't want to talk about. Like the title of your book has like a few of the things, like sex, like we don't really want to talk about that. Drugs, we don't want to talk about that. Kundalini awakening, like you don't really want to talk about that. And to put them all to talk about them all together at once, it's like, you know, like, but they're all connected, you know, they're all high energy things.
That's it, right? Like they're all so intimately connected, and there was such a convergence of those things. It was, that title came from my editor. He found like it was written in the text of the book. I had a different title originally, and he's like, "That's the book title." I'm like, "I can't call it that," and he's like, "Yes, you can."
Yeah. What was the original one?
The original title was Field Notes from a Kundalini Awakening. So that's now the subtitle.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? Oh, so the path of yoga that you are practicing and teaching is Tantra. So what's your understanding of that? Can you share your understanding? Because it's mine as well, right? And I'm curious because you've been studying more directly than I have from other teachers, right?
Like,
yeah.
Using your life as the vehicle for awakening and using energy. And for me, it's like that for me, it's really about energy. Is that like there's the mind, there's the body, and then the link between those two is energy. And if we can like harmonize those energies, like the masculine and the feminine, the polarities, and we can merge them, then we can transcend them. And like I'm a non-dualist, like I've had experiences, some of which were brought about by plant medicine that showed me that ultimate truth of non-duality. And I like I'm so grateful that I've had those experiences to know, like I'm not in it now. Like I feel quite separate from things, but there's a part of me that knows that there's all these other layers of reality. And so then we have these practices, which can, which, you know, like you go that's really what you've done. You like went too far, but you weren't able to integrate what you saw on the other side. You have to come crashing down, and then you say like, okay, what's happened? Like, how do I get back there? But like, do I really want to get back there? But then you can do your practices slowly.
Yeah.
We got a glimpse of the end goal, and then we can just slowly walk the path safely. We're like, I don't know what's coming up here. And for me, like, I'm just going to say it. I did 5-MeO-DMT recently. Have you heard of that?
Nah.
5-MeO-DMT. It's from a toad.
Right. I might have heard of it.
And you know, DMT, they say, is the spirit molecule, and it's a naturally occurring substance in the body. And basically, I had the best possible trip that you could have on it. And it took me from sitting there, I had the DMT, I laid back, I closed my eyes, and then everything turned into a 360-degree spiraling geometric pattern. And there was the Devi prayer playing, which is the names, all of the names of the Divine Mother. And that music turned into the tapestry of this sacred geometry. And then I had about 2 or 3 seconds to decide whether I was okay with dying at that point. And I was really lucky that I was at the point where I was like, yeah, I'm cool. I don't care what happens. And then boom, I got shot through the sacred geometry into the light, became the light, became one with everything, was completely motionless and basically lifeless for about 10 minutes with no recollection of what happened, except for the fact that it was the most blissful experience that I've ever had. And then, because it was such a smooth trip out, it was about 40 minutes to come back. And I'm so grateful that I have the maps of the yoga tradition of like Samkhya philosophy that I could map. I'm like, oh, I'm in the causal plane now. I'm in the realm of just pure ideas. Oh, here I am. I'm just coming into duality. I'm coming into the world of yin and yang. I can see that this is the first plane beyond that oneness. And then I could feel, oh, I chose to be a human being. Like, I'm like, whoa, this is okay. Like, I remembered choosing it in a way. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm here. And then slowly, as it's like prana fully left the body and merged with the one. And then as it came through, I could feel it touching the chakras. And then when it got down to 3, 2, 1, I was like, damn, this is a dense place that I've come, and it's quite heavy. And I'm like, but I was like, it's cool. Like, I can deal with that, knowing that there's something greater than just the cycles of karma that we're a part of. And it's like I went all the way to the end, and then I came back, and I was like I was unscathed. I was like, oh, I feel like I've got I got taken to the final destination, then taken back to the start, and I was like, all right, let's like, I'm willing to walk this path. It might take me multiple lifetimes to get there, but like, I know where I'm going now. Like, I don't have to take the leap of faith anymore. And so I think that's what you have as well. We've had experiences that the leap of faith isn't necessary.
Yeah.
Because, and especially when you have a framework, because often what you probably didn't have in your first experiences is a framework to understand what you'd experienced.
No. And that's such a beautiful way to describe it, because it was exactly like that. Like, the first awakening that I had was at Shambhala Music Festival. Of course, it was called Shambhala. And it was like the oneness was there, and it was all the secrets of the universe. Like, I knew everything, and all song titles and all movie titles and all book, everything was just accessible. There was the sense that whatever I need to know, I can access, I can tap into. And I understood healing on a really deep level. I'm like, oh, to heal, people just have to surrender and soften and let go, and I can just draw things out of them. I can just facilitate that. Like, all of this stuff came through, and it was such an extraordinary place to sit. And then all the other shit happened, and I ended up, bam, right back in conditioned mind, but with all of the heartache and separation and, like, of losing my fiance and losing my friends and losing my town, like everything. It was like all of the shit that I've been running away from to my whole life, I had to finally face. So I had no choice but to find my way back, because I went from literally experiencing heaven to being in hell. And it was like, I got to find my way back to heaven. I got to find my way back. And you're right, I didn't have a framework for it at the time, but I knew there was something in me that knew it was yoga related, and that yoga had the answers. And if I could just show up and do my yoga practice, that somehow that would take me back into those states of being, which over time, and it took a good 10, 12 years, they have. Yeah. Like, I now do experience, not in the last 3 or 4 days, because I've been in terror, but my waking day-to-day reality, I know, full on, but my waking day-to-day reality is now more and more, I wouldn't say non-dual, because that it's not that, but it's just this effervescence and this radiance of, like, no matter what's coming through, it's all okay. It's like, oh, there's anger moving through the system. Yeah. Oh, this is what's happening through me, and it's all okay, Yeah. So yeah, it has been fucking extraordinary. But man, it would have been nice when it went down, if there'd been people around me, if there'd been framework, if I'd been in an ashram, if something. Yeah. Yeah. Totally, and that's what we need more of, is just people that are there in those moments. Like, we all know, like, I know people who have had that experience, and then they come back, and it's like you really touch this ultimate truth, which is hard to integrate. Like,
on your own. It's hard to integrate on your own, and even worse if people around you are telling you that you're delusional, because there's a part of you that goes like, honestly, like you're like, everyone like, this is an illusion, and they're like, no, it's not. You need to come back to reality now. It's not okay that you don't believe what I believe. And then it's like, that's the most horrible thing. Like, to be told that your experience of truth, especially the heartbreaking thing is like, if you experience the ultimate truth, like and then people are telling you like, no, like you're not allowed to believe that. And because that's really what I believe is like the goal of life, is to be able to know that you're something more than this physical. And I've set a goal for myself recently. I was like, because I'd been feeling like, I'm not going to get enlightened this lifetime. I've got too much stuff, and I know what the game is, but I'm just a bit dense, and I've had some traumas, and I'll do my best this time around, but I'm probably not going to get that, having those thoughts. But reading a lot, so one of the things I did in India was I just went crazy buying all of the books, like all the books that had the knowledge. And I'll check it out. It's going to let me do this, isn't it? So I've got,
oh my
all
God,
sorts of
book envy,
like Ram Dass, Aldous Huxley, Sadhguru, Swami Muktananda, Trungpa Rinpoche, Eckhart Tolle, like the Tao Te Ching, like books on the chakras, Be Here Now, the Lorax, you can see there, and all these
the Lorax,
yin books. And because these people, it makes real sense to me to be only really reading books of people who have either firmly established in that place or have touched that place. And one of the things that came through, that one of the things I'm reading a lot is kind of one of the goals, one of the markers of whether you've made it is that moment of death. Like, what happens at that moment of death? Are you no, I'm going to be no more anymore. If this ends, then everything ends, right? And that's how most of us die on some level. And the OGs, the guys who have really tuned into that frequency, it's Maha Samadhi. And they're listen, everyone, on Wednesday's the day, my friends, anything you need before then, just come let me know, because I'm about to leave my body. And the one epic one, Ramana Maharshi, is his ashram is where I was in the south. And they say the day came and he sat outside in meditation and he just lifted his soul up out of his body. It wasn't a dying. It was he was so identified with the spirit, the soul, that he was able to not kill the body, just leave the body at will. And there was no fear. There was absolutely no doubt in his mind that anything was changing other than the body was had served its course. And so I've got a vision of when the day comes, I'm just gonna slide my soul out of my crown, and I'll be there'll be a light there, a light more subtle than anyone that we can see on earth, and that I'll meet all the other souls that I've ever hung out with in all of my lives, and we'll have a beautiful time. And if I have to come back again, I will. That's fine. But I have the feeling that at that point I'll move on to another world somewhere, and
so
and do what I need to do there.
If you were in some kind of psych ward right now and you were sharing this desire, etc., without a context around it, right? Yeah, he's crazy.
Yeah.
He's speaking crazy. He thinks he's going to do this, this, and this. But within the yogic framework, what you're saying makes total sense, and when I look at the 5 cliches, right, the obstacles to awakening, and the last one is fear of death. That is, our conditioning is so strong around that, this idea that we are the material physical form. It is the last one, like you say, to break. And when one is and I can sense that as well. Like, I feel like I don't have a fear of death, but I'm pretty sure my survival instinct is really strong at the same time.
Yeah.
But for people that are still deep in their conditioned mind, to even begin to comprehend what it means to have no fear of death, it just it doesn't compute. You know, it's like two different worlds are colliding in so many ways, shapes, and forms.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, huh?
Yeah, that's crazy. That's crazy talk.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Like, if I had somehow ended up in a psych ward, like, they wouldn't let me out. They'd never let me out. Because I wouldn't stop saying that. I'd have to be like, no. I'm like, it's horrible. It's horrible if I was to die. You know, like.
Yeah.
It's just no one should ever die. Like, it would be the worst thing if we were to die. It's like, not the body that's dying, man. It's the false identity that's attached to the body that's dying. And then when you're able to let that die, then you get to be so much more vast, and there's so many more possibilities. You got to give up all the dense pleasures and desires that we have to experience that.
But you and I get that. Like, I mean, we can riff for hours on this stuff, and we both get it. There was something I was going to drop into on that. So when I was in the psych ward, there was something in me that was smart enough to know to toe the party line. So literally the moment I woke up, I was looking around and I was sussing out the scene and just going, okay, what do I need to do so they believe I'm sane so I can get the fuck out of here as fast as possible? So I was into strategic minds straight away. And that was my intention, is just to be whoever they needed me to be so that I could leave the place. Yeah. And which is what I did. Like, it took 9 days the second time before they would let me out. But I was, I know. Yeah. Yeah.
And then were they drugging you? Were they giving you antipsychotic stuff?
Yeah, totally. Like, I was on.
What did that do? Did that, like, you know, like, did it stop you from being able to, like, touch that truth you'd felt?
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's why the difference was so extreme, because I'd had these awakening experiences and been so expanded and in this radiance. And then the moment I was given the sedatives, it just kind of like collapsed my whole field. And then because when I woke up, I was in a psych ward, all of the fears and the conditioned mind really like started doing their thing again. And because I'd had this awakening experience without doing any of the hard work of yoga in terms of releasing any of my samskaras, any of my patterning. So I was so heavily armored internally. Like, my ego defenses were so freaking strong, and I had such strong control tendencies going on. So that's why there was such a contrast as well between the awakened state that I experienced and then my everyday, you know, it was just like this.
Yeah.
And that's what made integration such a long, painful road, because I had so much work. I had so much work to do, and I still do, but it's it was full on.
That's why I was so lucky. Like, I did this DMT trip, right? And I went up, and then when I came back, I was laying in a room, like, on a beautifully comfortable bed. There was just like, it was dim with like 20 candles lit around me, and there were 2 shamans, and I was describing my experience, and everyone was, and I had one person holding my right hand, one person holding my left hand, and someone holding both my feet. And I was saying, like, can you feel it? And they're like, yeah, we can feel it because we've been there before. And then I was describing what I felt, and then one of the shamans at the end of the bed played a song and made the song out of all the words that I had been saying. So instead of waking up in a psych ward, I woke up in a room full of people like, wow, you know, like, you had the experience. It's so beautiful. Like, you're not you know, they were doing the opposite. They were like, wow, it's so beautiful, you know, and they're there to support you. And then from that point, it's much easier to integrate. I didn't have to crash. I like comfortably came back down to earth, and I was like, and it was like the cliches, right? And I could feel them like one by one sitting back in. But I was like, on some level, I was like, oh, I chose this. I did choose this. And like as dense and as much suffering as there is here. It's all perfect in some way that's here for my awakening. And
we
so
get to
yeah,
play.
like
We get
the
to
ideal
play.
situation.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think, and that's a big part of what the book is about, is saying that the context that we create around the experience determines the road for recovery. And that when people are presenting with depression and anxiety and all of these mental illnesses, like basically when the mind is starting to not be able to suppress things anymore, that when we see it as if there's something wrong with the person, it doesn't help the recovery. But when we see it as part of the awakening experience of like, oh, your soul is just ready to evolve and it's time for you to face the truth of who you are, the truth of what you feel, and the truth of your life, and let's support you in that process while you begin to wake up. What a difference. What an amazing difference, you know.
Yeah.
There was one thing I was going to reflect on with that. No, it's gone completely. It's so nice to see you. It's so nice to see you and to feel you're in. That's what I was going to say. Okay. So one thing that was been instrumental for me in the last 3 or 4 years really has been the group of people around me, including you, and Jace, right? So in the last 2 or 3 years, I've started going back into the kind of journeying that happened when I was in the psychosis, where I access internal realms, when I travel, I don't know, maybe the causal realms, when I'm journeying. I don't know how to describe it exactly to people that haven't had those experiences. And what's become quite apparent to me is that it's quite normal to have lots of different things flow through you. So to give an example, I'll go into practice and I'll get really present and I surrender to Kundalini, like this flow of energy within me. And my body will begin to just move through things. And as it's moving through things, it'll get to a blockage and it will slowly move out the blockage. And as it moves out the blockage, there might be a sound that comes out, or there might be an emotion that comes out, or there might be an insight or a realization. And practicing in this way, it's sahaja, it's a spontaneous unfolding of the soul. And I remember so clearly that I've been recording these practices for a while because part of me was concerned that I was crazy, because I would do these practices, go so deep and be led on all these experiences. And I just remember you saying to me, you're not fucking crazy, you're just waking up, this is the process. And Jace as well, Jace saying the same thing. And when you said that to me, when Jace said that to me, it really helped me to anchor and to ground and to have the courage to go deeper into those states of such strong presence in the universe, you know? Whereas before, I think I'd been afraid to start to travel back because it was like, oh, what if I go deep in there and I can't come back like last time, you know? But now I'm so anchored and grounded that I can travel into those places and come back every time.
I want to show you something.
Holy moly.
Guess whose this is?
Is that
Guess whose this
Jason's?
is?
Is that yours now?
He left it at my house, and he left it at my house in Bali. And so he brought it with us to the Gillies. And there's like a little tradition in that when I call him in and I do the center prayer, someone's got to play this. And I'm like, God damn, do I have to learn how to play a didgeridoo in 1 week? But maybe I can't even make a sound out of it at this point. But
who knows?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for him. I'm so grateful for him because when he dropped his body, that was I could feel him still around. Like, and he dropped little notes and gave me little taps on the shoulder, and like now that, you know, my fear of death is like 10% of what it was before then, because I'm like 100% sure that when he dropped his body, he went on a mission to go around and make sure everyone knew that it was okay. And like, obviously not everyone would have had been able to get that message because it wouldn't have fitted with their consciousness. But I had the feeling like he knew that I would know. And he was like, made a real effort with me. He's like, I'm going to make sure that Nick like is absolutely certain that I'm still around and that I love him and everyone else. And I did feel like he kind of bestowed a bit of responsibility. He's like, hey, keep my message going. And like, you know, he's like, you've got a good, you got a good mouth to share this, you know? And now when I connect to him, it's really interesting when someone passes away, right? And you feel them, and it's like you feel them without the personality, and all of the experiences and things that like densified their personality, and without the body, which has certain strengths and weaknesses that when the soul is free of it, it doesn't have those. And I could feel him as this kind of like warm, pervasive light, like going from the soul and then kind of just dissolving out to now I just kind of feel him everywhere as if he's looking down, and I wonder actually if he's taken a new body or like what he's up to. But there was something that you just said that really resonated. Like you're talking about your practice, and you're like, shit, this is like weird. Like this is weird. My practice, it's like too out there to even like. It's like a bit out there. Like people wouldn't be cool with it. And one of the books, Play of Consciousness by Swami Muktananda. Have you read that one?
Yeah, I've got it. Yeah.
So there's a chapter in it where basically his guru gives him the Shakti Pat and awakens his Kundalini. And it's like going, like he's like, is there no turning back? Like the Kundalini is awakened, and that's kind of what's happened to you. Like you didn't get the Shakti Pat from a guru, you got the Shakti Pat from this, that, and something else, you know, and it was like a spontaneous, fast one, like not a slow release of Kundalini, like a big jolt of it, and it's going to keep flowing. Like you can kind of suppress it and it can leak out and stuff. But now that you're more integrated, it's like you drop in, and then the Kundalini just knows how to purify the bodies. It's like all right, there's something stuck there that's stopping it. And then it's like this noise needs to come out because this noise represents something that's blocking the flow coming up. And he talks about it. His guru gives him the Shakti Pat, and he goes and lives in like a little hut for like 5 or 10 years or something. He's there for ages, and he doesn't even know Hatha Yoga or Pranayama really, and it's all happening to him. And he's like getting freaked out. He's like, he was doing like shoulder stands and stuff, and he's just like, the fuck is going on right now? Like he's like, there was one time where he was like roaring like a lion for 2 weeks, and he's just like, this is whack. Like this is like it was like the last part was good. I was doing like breath retentions and stuff, and now I'm a freak. And then like everyone, I can't stop doing it. And people think that I'm a freak, you know, but because he didn't have the context, right? But slowly, Kundalini doesn't give a crap. Kundalini he was committed to like just writing it out, and then slowly Kundalini purifies itself, and then you're integrated. And what the yoga practice we're teaching in studios, well, not really what's being taught in studios, but like Hatha Yoga is a reverse engineering of that process. So he's doing all these mudras and stuff.
Exactly.
So we're like, all right, you do this, this, and this, and slowly you get rid of those blockages. And then like the one thing that I resonate with is like people say like waking up Kundalini. Kundalini is not asleep. Kundalini is like the divine feminine power of the great spirit that is within you. And it's not asleep. It's just that it's under too many layers of density. So if you one by one get rid of the layers of density, then it's a way smoother ride up. It doesn't have to like smash its way through the blockages and like get them out in weird ways, because you've done that. Like you're creating a vessel ready for Kundalini.
Yeah. And I definitely was not ready. Like it smashed its way through a shitload of density. I love it did. And, you know, and it's taken me a long time to feel comfortable fully surrendering to what Kundalini, like it is. It's like I surrender. It's almost like being possessed. You know, it takes me so deep. It takes me so deep now. And I've learned to trust it, and I've learned to anchor in it, and I've learned to stay grounded and just hold the container. I've read that book, and I don't, it was years ago though. I think I need to go back and reread that chapter in
Mm,
particular, because it does help so much when other people speak of a similar experience, because it does seem so freaking
yeah,
out there. It's like, yeah, my practice don't look like no ordinary yoga practice anymore. It's just Kundalini
yeah,
taking me on a run. Oh, like 2 nights ago, I've never really done Nowly or any of that kind of stuff, but that started happening. Like my belly started going through all these contortions and doing all this kind of stuff.
mm,
And I'm watching it going, oh, and now I understand where Nowly and shit came from, because something's beginning to happen down there. And like something was
yeah,
being like massaged up and moved up from the left side. And then next thing you know, I'm
yeah.
on my hands and knees vomiting energy out, like no physical bile, but like,
Wow.
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm like, just another day in the practice of surrendering to Kundalini.
yeah.
Yeah. And like
Mm,
I'm like, do not use the word crazy. This is not crazy. This is the normal path of the evolution of the soul when these energies start
yeah,
to move. It ain't fucking crazy. Um,
yeah.
mm,
And I think it's important to like whoever's watching now, there's 8 people watching now. Like there'll probably be a lot of people watching later on that might get freaked out by what we're saying, potentially. And like it's when I think the point is like we're not saying like this is going to happen to everyone. The point is
mhm.
like you can start slowly removing the layers. So when the time has come, the body is ready to handle all this energy. And we just haven't had a choice. I feel like my Kundalini is going as well, and I feel like there's times where I've resisted. I've been like, no, like that's gonna just be too. It's gonna mess up my. It's not gonna be convenient right now, you know. But
Put a hold on, Kundalini. It's
but
not convenient right now.
yeah, like come back later on, you know. But for the most part, that's not gonna happen to people.
No,
That
no.
stuff. Like it's actually like an amazing grace that it has happened to us, and it does happen to people, and it only really happens to people who are ready, not necessarily think they're ready in their human mind, but like whose souls are
Mm,
ready. Like
yeah,
we chose it
yeah,
on at some point where like we knew this vessel was ready for it. We chose a vessel fit for it,
yeah. Yeah, I was
and
definitely I mean, I've been
and
hard out seeking and exploring since I was, 11 or 12. I was asking the big questions. And I've been really, especially on like mushrooms, I've been taking a shitload of mushrooms and really watching every tiny nuance of my universe, as I called it. I wanted to know, like, to
mm,
track thoughts and to track sensations and to track this. And so I'd already honed my ability to focus my attention on a singular point and keep going deeper and deeper and deeper and deep. Like, what is it? What is it? And I know that
yeah,
like, it's no wonder it did happen the way that it happened because of that. And then chucking all the sex I was having.
yeah, yeah. So what about that? Like, how do you feel that? Do you feel like it's kind of like, well, I mean, we've got to, like, if there's, yeah, so that's another one Muktananda talks about is like, he was like, oh, like, I've done with my sexual energy. And then he had an erection for like a month or something. And there was like kind of this like woman coming into his mind. He's like, no. And it's like, it's almost like you have to get through those desires, whether you, and for me, I don't know if I could have gone through my let go of those sexual desires without actually fulfilling some of them.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
think
know,
that's
like, and
definitely,
how does it stimulate it as well? It's my
yeah.
question to you.
Okay, so in my 20s, I was pretty promiscuous. I loved sex and had as much as I could have, pretty much. And then I was with this guy who was the first man I'd ever been with who met me sexually, and it was like, yes, this guy is like, he's meeting me, and energetically we vibed. There was something where our souls, like energetically, and we dropped into this space that we went automatically when we were together in bed. Our breath would synchronize naturally, and our breath
Mm,
would the breath would lead us through our lovemaking. And I was deeply in love with him as well. So my heart was opening to him. My
mm,
whole body was opening. Energetically, I was opening breath. And I've never experienced that kind of lovemaking before. And there was a shitload of drugs going on. Like we were snorting coke and taking E and smoking weed and doing mushrooms and, all of it. Yeah. So that's what I
Wow.
mean. Yeah, it was, you know, sometimes we're making love for 10 hours with, you know, cocaine. And so
Wow.
it was like this crazy mix of intense energetic connection. I know. And a bunch
Yeah.
of drugs. So all of that was part of what led to me having such an explosion of Kundalini. Now though, like I have been pretty much celibate for years. Like I've only had one long-term relationship in the last 8 years, and my system has naturally been practicing brahmacharya. So what that means is
Mm.
that brahmacharya is the retention or the right use of sexual energy. And so I'm
Mm.
no longer capable of having sex for sexual pleasure. If that makes sense. It's like I can only step into
Mm.
it. I can only step into it if there's an energetic alignment, if my soul says yes. And the few times when I've tried to step into it, when it hasn't been a soul yes, I've either had to get drunk. We're talking like 3 or 4 years ago now, or it's like I've had to push my way into it, and it hasn't been a great experience, of course. So now I've just gone, all right, I get it.
Yeah.
I may never have sex again. I mean, I'm sure I will, but I just have to trust this
Yeah.
brahmacharya that's naturally unfolding. And it
Yeah.
does make me go, thank God I had so much sex in my 20s, because if I hadn't
Yeah.
have played all that out, I I don't think I could. It would feel like a suppression, whereas it doesn't feel like a suppression
Yeah.
now, because the energy itself like moves through me. Like I'm still able to fully feel like the sexual energy is really present. It's just not being expressed in a male to female or even female to female like physical encounter.
Yeah.
So
Mm.
that's what,
I think,
yeah,
yeah, there's something to that of like burning out desires, whether they're sexual
yeah,
desires or like material desires or like whatever that desire is like there's two ways, right? Is to like just to know ultimately like the end, in the end, that those desires won't be there, and just like renounce it and just like let them and like burn them up inside, or you can play them out, you can live them out and do what
mm,
you want to do, and but know that like, so like that's been my experience with a lot of my desires, is like to do them so hard that you realize they're not actually going to give you the fulfillment that you thought they would. And
yeah,
then it's easy to be like, oh, like it's okay then, I don't actually need that. Like
yeah.
I'm chasing the dragon, and like it's not going to do it. And then it's like a level of peace to let something go. But
Mm. I definitely hold
yeah.
to that philosophy. Like whenever there's a desire to enact something out, to play it out, I go right into it. You know, whether it's eating chocolate or like last year, I noticed I was drinking almost every night, a drink or two. And I noticed that and I was like, oh, this is interesting. I'm going to go right into this. And I did. I went right into it, and it took me all the way into
Yeah.
releasing a super deep unconscious limiting belief. And once that limiting belief
Mm.
was released, the desire to drink alcohol was gone, you know. And
Mm.
and now like this year
Yeah.
I haven't had a drink since June, but it was by going into it fully aware and present
Yeah.
and no judgment, and then all the way through and out the other side, which is it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Cool.
Mm.
Alrighty, anything else you want to drop in, Nick, before we wrap it up for the awesome people that have been watching now and are going to be watching later? Because I know this will get seen a
Yeah.
lot. We haven't chatted on film like
I'd
this
be,
before.
I'm so interested to see what people say about this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just like encourage people to comment on it and say what you think. And yeah, it'd be really interesting to me. And
Hmm.
yeah, I'm excited to be back in New Zealand. So I feel like a lot of people watching this are going to be in New Zealand, and like I'm coming back for like 4 months. So we got to do some collaborations. I'm going to be at all the festivals, launching my new yin thing, which is still a
Mm,
little bit of a secret right now, but like really excited about it. Taking people on journeys. Um,
yeah. I love your
so
yin
yeah,
classes. Oh my God, I can't wait to come to one of your classes again. Yours are like the only
Yeah.
classes I pretty much go to anymore, I have to say, because I know I can just go and be me
Oh,
in my full Kundalini experience, and it's not a big deal.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wanna do your practice. I've missed the times that you've shared your Tantra practice. So that's one
Mm,
of the things on my list is, and whether that's at a festival or maybe even better, like just like one-on-one, we can just,
yeah.
like just go for it. So no, there's no holding back if I start roaring like a lion or something.
Let's do that, because then we can go so deep if we do it one-on-one. That'd be awesome. Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. So New Year's Eve, are you at resolution?
Yeah. That
Yeah.
resolution.
All right. We'll be
Yeah.
seeing you
We're
then.
gonna do a yin journey and some nidra and a talk. I'm gonna give a talk. What are you doing at resolution?
What am I doing? I'm doing Dancing the Dragon, which is
Mm-hmm.
like a
Cool.
yoga rhythm style, adventure. With
Mm-hmm.
Anavan Deva. I gotta learn how to pronounce his name properly. Anavan, who's an awesome DJ. So we're gonna be doing that, and then I think I'm doing my Tantra practice. I can't quite remember, but
Cool.
it's gonna be fun. I want to take people deep into the liberation, basically through music and movement,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Mm.
Awesome.
Yay. Thank you so much for connecting all the way from Bali. Nik Robson, coming to
Thank
talk
you.
all things
Thank you.
yoga. Big love to you. And I'll see you when you're back in
Yeah.
New
Big
Zealand.
love. Peace.
Bye. Alrighty. Okay, so that was Nik Robson, and I'm just going to have a quick look. If anyone has any questions before I tie this up, please throw a question down in the comments. Yeah, because I'm going to wrap this up. If you haven't yet bought Sex, Drugs, and Mostly Yoga, it is discounted on Amazon until we're Monday, November 12th here in New Zealand, and it's discounted till about 7 o'clock tonight, although truth be told, I probably won't get around to upping the price until tomorrow, so you might be able to just slide in. It's actually gone to #1 in spiritual self-help, which I'm somewhat astonished at. I'm still kind of opening to receive that. So I'm #1, and then it's like Brené Brown, and then it's like Eckhart Tolle, and then it's Oprah Winfrey. And so I had to take screenshots of that. I'm like, holy shit dog. There I am in the company of Brené and Eckhart and Oprah. And my book is there at #1. So if you haven't yet bought it, go buy a copy. If you're interested in yoga, in waking up, in mental health, sex, there's sex in this book, and drugs too. Talk about drugs and I know that Nick and I were talking about these things, but just to be really aware that any kind of drugs that you use, particularly in combination with yoga and meditation, can exacerbate all kinds of things. And yeah, it can be a dangerous road. And it did. It took me all the way into psychosis because I was not ready and I was not grounded and I hadn't done sufficient work to be able to handle that. So I do use plant medicine now to journey at times. And I do it in a really mindful, grounded, safe way because I respect the power of these medicines. Yeah. Alrighty. Tomorrow, such a great chat. Yeah, it was, wasn't it? So nice to see Nick. Oh my God, my heart. Love that man. He's I have this inner circle of amazing men. I have about 8 or so men that I just adore in my life, and Nick is one of them, one of the brothers. Alrighty, so peace out to all you guys. Big, big, big love. Whew. It's been a big day. It's been a big 24 hours. 3 Facebook Lives in 24 hours. Love you guys all so much, and I will see you. Yeah, festivals. Oh, December 1st, New Zealand Yoga Day at Western Springs. I will be there with print copies of my book to sign and sell to you. It's going to be an extraordinary day that Franco Heke and Nikki Rhodes are putting on. So please come along to that if you're in Auckland. And if you want to chat to me about any of these topics, I will be there having fun. So see you there at New Zealand Yoga Day on December 1st at Western Springs. Over and out.